I think maybe one thing we should think about for next month is maybe doing a little bit of a promotional campaign to get projects who are interested in mentoring stuff to show up for this.
Yeah.
Um, the so yeah, and I do really wish that there was some way to create a bot that would send out the reminders of the meetings without it being a weekend long project.
Well, and
But
I think that
Google Calendar is a special problem.
yeah, there is the last time I looked at it, the only way I figured I could do it was with it's not called ActionScript, but it's the Google scripting tool,
Yeah.
I believe. And so that's that weekend long project that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
But we've had a bunch of projects that have actually talked about new mentoring stuff lately. I'm looking at trying to implement group mentoring,
Oh, cool.
the thing that we do in Kubernetes in order to level people up as like reviewers or whatever,
I,
in a couple of other projects.
right on.
Um, so because a lot of projects need to level people up to reviewer more than they need more new contributors.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
yep. Hey, Prasanth.
Hello. So one of the so I've actually put together 2025's term one schedule. And we're gonna start accepting proposals early in January, probably second, third week of January.
Okay.
So if we do so if we're going into October, November, I think those are good times to because I think probably our meeting in December is going to get punted. I'm going to be on vacation third week of December. So I think that October, November is a good time to sort of reach out to projects and say, hey, this is something that is coming up that you should be aware of. And if you're interested in participating, I think you're right. This is a good time to do that sort of marketing sort of push. And a question that I had for you, Josh, on the um,
Mm-hmm.
actually, before I continue, I waited for a moment for Prasanth to say hello. It's okay if you're shy. You're also welcome to just use chat if you'd like. Um, but and you're also welcome to just sit and listen. So all the options are available to you. But Josh, I had a question for you about Kubernetes. I'm actually very happy with their participation in the last couple of terms because Kubernetes has historically not really been a part of the LFX program. Are you on the equivalent to the developer experience team for
Yeah.
Kubernetes?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that,
But the thing is, for things like LFX, the SIGs are allowed to participate on their own, like just handle it on their own if they feel that they can.
oh, of course, yeah.
Right. Wouldn't feel like that they need any sort of centralized authority in there. We've never been in the position where we had to count slots for LFX.
No,
Um,
I just
and so some SIGs want help from Contribx, but a lot of SIGs are used to LFX and Google Summer of Code enough that they don't feel like they need help. They
right
can
on.
just do it. Um, the so um, so the and we're not going to stand in the way of that, right? We're going to
Yeah.
say, hey, just as long as you're actually putting this together. I started an initiative ages ago that I didn't have a follow up on, which was, my original idea to do sort of opportunity collection, right?
Mhm.
Because for a lot of for a lot of efforts, I don't know what to call these, right? Things that an intern would work on. I the For a lot of things that an intern might work on, they could be equally appropriate across LFX, Google Summer Code, and Outreachy, right? And it would
Mhm.
be better to just have a pool of these things. Um, the um, but that requires a lot of follow up with the SIGs. And so I've been trying to more recruit somebody who's interested in doing that simply because the simply because it's a lot of legwork. Because the problem is it has to be sort of maintained by the SIG chairs, and they've got like a million pulls in their time. So the and I did talk to Ed about it, who's joined with an interest in mentoring. But after I explained the various mentoring efforts that needed help, he decided he was more interested in the group mentoring, and I can't argue with that, right? Kubernetes is among those projects that needs to level people up more than it needs new contributors.
Yeah, I agree there too.
So, I mean, ideally you have both, right? Back when we had, like 20 active people in SIG Contribex, we were doing both.
The LFX program could be used as a leveling tool. Because we don't have any requirements about, like Google Summer of Code says, oh, you should be a beginner. We don't have that constraint with the LFX. So if we put together a project proposal that is saying, okay, let's get somebody from contributor to.
Yeah, but the thing is, LFX doesn't help, if you follow me.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing we can get out of LFX mentoring that helps the mentorship, right? First of all, I called it group mentoring, and there's a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
Which is we try to put together a cohort of somewhere between, like 4 and 10 people. And the reason why we do that is that 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 optimizes the maintainer or a tech lead's time. Because, like say you have 8 people in the cohort, right? Out of those 8 people, you can almost guarantee that half of them will have something happen in their lives or their jobs or whatever, and will not actually be able to spend the time to level up.
Right.
But because you were doing it as a group, you haven't wasted your time because you still have the other 4, right?
Yeah, I get that.
And LFX is not set up to do groups. Second, we don't need to pay people. It's not even helpful to pay people because the whole goal of this is to get people who are going to continue to work on it after the program is over. And the thing is, I feel that the paid internship programs help contribute to the ecosystem, if you follow me.
Yeah.
Like as in people who are paid as interns continue contributing in open source somewhere. But my experience has been they don't necessarily continue contributing in the place where they did their internship.
Yeah.
And for things like reviewer, we very much need them to continue in the place where they did the mentorship or the menteeship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I imagine a tool that would help with group mentoring? Yes. But it would not be at all based on the LFX mentoring tool, even if that tool wasn't, buggy as all get out. Like even if it was working according to spec, it still wouldn't work because it's designed for one-on-one paid internships. And you can't really have a tool that does both.
Yeah, it'd be difficult. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So so I mean, we also have another thing out there, which is that we've abandoned completely, partly for tooling reasons, which was called the one-on-one hour.
I'm sorry, say again?
The one-on-one hour.
Oh, okay.
So the idea here is for people who are regular contributors, it can be super helpful for them to just get 1 hour with a SIG lead or maintainer, because that can often get them unstuck from something they were stuck on. And again, it optimizes maintainer time, right? Because they're just giving away an hour, right? And almost anybody can find an hour for an extra meeting.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
So it's like low time commitment, high benefit. But the problem was that we never found a tool chain that didn't require somebody from Contribex to be actively and continuously involved. right? We really needed something that was self-service for the SIGs. And we never came up with anything. We were doing it with Calendly for a while, but they first had the limitations that, again, there's no groups in Calendly, right? So you can't say, hey, you know, and the second problem was that Calendly changed the terms of service in a way that some of the SIG leads were very unhappy with.
Oh,
I don't
interesting.
remember exactly what it was, but as a result, those SIG leads did not want to use Calendly. So,
I use Calendly quite a lot, and they've actually got a new like poll feature where you can say,
yeah,
hey, here's some times that I'm available,
yeah,
and anybody who votes can then be invited to the. It's a little bit. It's not like setting up open office hours where it's like, okay, here's where I'm available, and you can book a single sort of slot. Though I think Google Calendar does that now, though.
yeah. I mean, the issue that we ran into is that if you're not using Calendly by sharing your whole calendar,
Right.
then you have to manually tell it when you're available every week.
Right. Yeah.
And what would happen was the SIG leads would slack off on that.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And then not be available as far as the tool was concerned, which
Yeah.
meant that the mentees couldn't sign up anywhere, right? And so we really needed something that would, for example, support a recurring time, which at least Calendly didn't at the time. And we couldn't find anything else, right? So I mean, the weird one is most of the time it's not a tools problem, right?
Yeah.
That was the one where it actually literally is a tools problem, where if something showed up today that met the spec to be self-sustaining, we could restart the mentoring program because there was nothing wrong with it as a program, right? Um, the so the whole everything else is more of a people problem, right? Like I'm also say for group mentoring is there's honestly nothing in group mentoring that we can't really do with email and spreadsheets.
This has been my experience.
So yeah, could there be theoretical tools that made that a little bit lower friction? Yes, but tooling is not the primary need there.
Yeah.
So the yeah, knowingly I have a new project for Electo that could be an internship thing, but the timing is off because I need to get it done before the end of the year.
Don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
The what's not often because most of what I need now for Electo is cleanup stuff, which does not make for good internships. Feature work is much better for internships.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just basically need to implement a new auth widget mainly for the benefit of the CNCF, but the timing is off. The so
so all right, is there anything else that oh, hello Fasila, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm so sorry again. I forgot about the meeting and then I'm actually down a little bit with fever.
No.
So yeah, I forgot to check the calendar. I know that it moved the meeting so that we can all join. And then I have never been able to join afterwards. So I just wanted to
cool.
join at least for the second half.
I'm glad you're here.
Okay, well, great.
And my apologies for not sending out the reminder messages.
Oh, that's okay. Anyways, I have added the calendar. So it was there on my phone, just that I was not well, so I did not check it.
And things happen. So, but we were this meeting was mostly just updates. So term 3 has started. We've got 47 mentees running through across 20 projects, or rather across 20 CNCF projects with 69 mentors. So we're doing pretty well for numbers for this one. I've also got term 1 scheduled for 2025. Now I normally would open a PR and leave it open for a week for comment and discussion. But I wanted to get it open and published because somebody was wanting to refer to it during a talk that they were giving last week. So even though it is it's published, it's still able to be updated. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns on that, that would be on the timing of things, that'd be welcome. And so, yeah, and then in terms of following up from some of the stuff that we were talking about last day, we were talking about potentially requiring proof of work or revisiting our blog requirements. One of the things I'd like to do in the next sort of 3 months before that project starts up is to revise in the repo. We've got like instruction sets for like, okay, how do we participate and what is required, what is that. So I'd like to in the next couple of months revise some of that, put a proposal forward to say maybe we don't require blog posts, but maybe we strongly suggest them. I'm more interested in doing like a work report than requiring a blog post. Sort of in the vein of what Google Summer of Code does. They don't require blog posts, but they do say, hey, at the end of the semester, we do want you to provide a link to the work that was done and do some of that. And I think that given our goal is to grow the community, yes, but also give people tools and experiences that they can refer back to when they're looking for work. I think that asking folks to do a work report would be helpful in those cases, and would again help us to make sure that we're getting value for the effort put out. So,
Yeah. I mean, one thing that we really need for the interns preparing a blog post is that we need a template to offer them.
yeah,
Because I've tried a couple of these have gone through the Kubernetes blog because they were LFX interns in Kubernetes, and it's pretty clear that they have no idea what belongs in one.
Yeah.
And so like I got one where the mentee basically had literally 2 pages on the application process for LFX.
yeah,
And 1 paragraph on what they actually worked on. And so it's like, no, this is not what belongs in the blog, but you know, this is an intern. They might be a college undergraduate. We can't expect them to know what belongs in the blog.
And I agree, and that's I think part of what I need to do in terms of sort of revamping.
Yeah.
Like that, those types of templates, I agree, are needed. And I think that we can add that to the repo and say, hey, this is when the time comes, here's your, like, if you're going to do a blog post, here's a template for a blog post. And if you're going to do a work report, here's what we would expect for the work report.
I mean, I do want to strongly encourage them to do a blog post. Obviously, we can't require it because,
Yeah.
among other things, not all projects have development blogs, and
Yeah.
we can't put all of these in the main CNCF blog. But I think we want to encourage them to do blog posts. And I think we can actually explain to them why it's valuable, right? Because it's also, it's not only providing sort of visibility and providing content for the project blogs, which the projects are often glad to have, but also it gives them some visibility in the community, which is always good for them.
Yeah, oh, exactly. Precisely, and that's something that like I've been getting questions from the CNCF saying, hey, are there blog posts that we can share because they want to tout the work that these folks have been doing, and it helps, again, like not just themselves, it also helps the community. It also helps sort of attract new folks, like, oh, what's going on over here, and so and actually, for instance, Vitesse actually published their mentees blog post on their website rather than the mentee having to have their own website or place for the or like Medium or something like that. And I thought that was actually really nice touch for Vitesse to say, hey, you actually had an official piece of publication here on the official Vitesse blog, and I think that's an interesting paradigm that we could follow up on, because I remember we were talking about one of the things that we didn't want to require people to do is have to have a website if their skill set is like Kubernetes, right? Like setting up a,
Right.
it can be a non-trivial task to get that up and running. So
Yeah, no, it's just a bunch of projects do have existing project specific blogs,
oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And for those, it totally makes sense. You know, and for that matter, say to them, hey, if you're working on a project that doesn't have a project specific blog, but you really want to write a blog post anyway, then come and talk to us.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll try to find someplace in the CNCF to stick it.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. So that, I just wanted to sort of revisit that and sort of say that was one of the things that we were still talking about. And like I said, I think it's one of the things that, like, writing up the like, we've got a really good, like, how to participate in Google Summer of Code, but we don't have a good collected like how to participate in CNCF LFX, right? We link out to like the LFX pages, but they're kind of scattered and whatnot. So one of the things I'd like to do is build out like a mentee guide for CNCF LFX, and I think that would be helpful for making sure that we get some of these things sort of done up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, is there anything anybody else wants to bring up? Anything we've sort of missed? Thoughts, comments, concerns? Just looking at the time here as well.
Yeah, I'm also looking. Facila, is there any organized mentorship activity going on in Istio?
We did submit 3 projects for the last term, but I think Craig was not able to pursue that because of personal reasons, and mostly it will get moved to this current new term. Yeah.
Yeah, Craig and I had discussed pushing those 2 projects into next term. I think that a question that comes up, normally we require 2 mentors for projects, but in this case, there was only 1. And so in future, are there other sort of Istio maintainers or contributors who might be interested in also being a mentor, or is that?
Yeah, I'll check. Usually, whenever the announcement comes, we take a look and revise and see if there is any item that we can give for mentorship.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll check again.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss? Anything outstanding? Anything interesting happening in the next couple of weeks?
You know that OTEL is participating in Outreachy, right?
Yes, and that's actually
Yeah.
put it in there. CNCF has approved funding for 1 participant.
Yeah. Yeah, I was hoping to find them, because they had the mentors, I was hoping to find them funding for a 2nd participant. And the problem is that I'm not going to get an approval or not in time.
Yeah.
Like I'll get the word on whether or not the money's available in like October, which is going to be too late.
Which is, yeah, that's just a touch too late. But
I mean, it's fine though. Presumably the mentor's going to stick around. If I get the money anyway, I'll just put it in towards next term.
That's what I was just going to ask, is if
Yeah.
And the reason I ask is because sometimes budgets can be finicky across years.
Yeah.
So if you're able to get that funding for next year, that would also be excellent. That would be.
Well, I'm hoping. I mean, the key would be that Outreachy would need to accept it this year, but I think
Well,
they will.
they do.
We've done that in the past. Yeah.
Yeah. They do what I'll call a northern summer and a northern winter
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah. So this would be contributing now in order to fund an intern for the northern summer.
Yep.
Which I think they'll be willing to do. But that assumes that the money actually materializes.
Of course.
It's money that's earmarked for CNCF stuff, but we need to make sure that it's not needed in another area first.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's just nice to see things happening with outreach again, because we haven't been doing a lot of outreach across the CNCF because of bandwidth.
Yeah, and I had a really good meeting with Dureshi
Yeah.
last week, earlier this week, about what we could do about oops, why can't I? There it is. About things like how can we make mentoring more enticing? How we can highlight former mentees and such like that. And what we can do specifically to try and help OTEL with outreach, just because I wanted to understand that program a little bit better. They've been sort of knocking it out the park with that one, so it was a great conversation, and I think that right now for OTEL, because of the cost, I think that I'm happy to let them continue. If we can get them to 2 mentees per cycle, that would be great, because right now they're just at 1. But because of that cost, I'm not sure that it's something that we can scale like we scale LFX or Google Summer of Code.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the trade-offs is Outreachy does have a better than, a definitely out of the introductory mentoring programs. Outreachy does have the best record on continuing commitment.
Yeah.
From its mentees, right? As in your Outreachy mentee is much more likely to stick around the project afterwards. And we've had a couple of Outreachy mentees who are now like Kubernetes SIG leads. So but yeah, it's an external program, and so the LF is always going to be it's external program. It costs a little bit more per cycle. I think that's one of the reasons why they also get. I mean, you wouldn't think that the $1,000 difference or $1,500 difference would be enough to make a difference in the kind of people they get, but it really does.
Yeah.
I mean, I also think that their age and mission makes a big difference. Because an awful lot of the mentees that Outreachy gets now are actually referrals from previous mentees. You follow me?
Yeah.
It's not really a cattle call. And I think that does make a difference in the orientation of the mentees, right? Because I think, at least from my experience doing a few LFX things, the average LFX intern that we get is somebody who is coming out of school and starting their career, which is an awesome thing, but that's why it does lead to a lot of project switching, right? Because the person does the internship, it goes on their resume, they do get a job working in open source somewhere, but it's not necessarily on the project that they did their internship for, right?
I still think that's a win, though. It's not ideal.
It's a win for the ecosystem, but when you're talking to a mentor,
yeah,
about why a maintainer of a project, why they should spend their scarce time mentoring somebody, ecosystem improvement is a much harder argument than, hey, there's a 50% chance that this person will stick around and become a reviewer, right? So that's sort of the whole challenge. I mean, there are other advantages to participating in any of the introductory mentoring programs. Like, for example, it forces you to clean up things like your good first issues, etc., and your contributing guide. On top of which some people just like doing it. But it's something to think about, and I just think we want to participate in outreach also, right? And along with Google Summer Code and Google Season of Docs, Oh, and the other thing that actually also helps Outreachy is, in terms of continuing contribution, is their mentees are much more likely to be career changers.
Mm,
That is, people who were doing something not in software, not in open source, and are now switching to working on open source software.
right.
And as more mature adults, they are in more of a position to pick a job that allows them to continue working on the project that they worked on, than somebody who's graduating from school is. So um, the yeah, so I mean, we could take career switchers in LFX, we just don't get them.
Yeah, I mean, we occasionally get one or two, but it's not often,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah,
not.
one thing I would like to do for LFX, and it might actually be worth introducing you to one of my coworkers, is kind of leveling up the Nigerian applicants,
Mm,
right? Because um, within the country, there's a lot of visibility by tech workers there as seeing open source as a way to find opportunities
Yeah.
outside of working for a Nigerian oil company.
oh yeah.
And but we're not really seeing the people who are highly motivated coming to LFX, if you follow me, at least not the ones that I've reviewed, right? Because like I've looked in there and I've said, hey, it would be really cool to actually have an intern from Nigeria as a change of pace. And so I looked really hard at those applications and they were just not qualified. And the thing is, I know that those qualified people exist in the country. So I have some coworkers who've been a little bit more involved in the Nigerian open source scene. And it might be worth talking to them about how we can make the people who are more qualified aware of LFX,
Yeah,
as a career change opportunity.
that'd be an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah.
We've got one of our staff at the CNCF is Nigerian, so it's
Yeah.
there is I believe they came up through Google Summer of Code, I want to say.
Yeah.
So there is a culture of
Yeah.
mentorship there, and we do have contacts there. So that could be.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think encouraging. It's like I said before. I never want to discourage a group of people from applying, but I would like to encourage other specific groups. And so if we wanted to
Right.
look at Nigeria as a place that we want to encourage,
Yeah.
that would be a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, the probably the same thing. Do you have any idea if the LFX team has a schedule for getting around to working on the mentorship software or replacing it with something else? Because obviously the one thing I'm worried about with new recruitment initiatives is that the current software is really not prepared to deal with large numbers of applicants.
Well, I think we're at the 150 about. I think we could probably get another 15 ish. I feel like we're at we're we there is still some headroom, but I'm not sure that there's not. And there are active improvements going on now, so they're
Yeah.
actively doing bug fixes and such. So if you see anything that's wonky or whatnot, feel free to open a support ticket on the LFX, and they are actually getting to them.
Yeah, right. I mean, the problem is that what's needed is not bug fixes, but a fundamental redesign of the software.
Right, and I think I haven't been promised this or anything, but I think that is likely to happen next year.
Okay.
But that being said, I've said that to you every
Yeah.
year for 3
No,
years.
and the same team is working on EasyCLA and they're working on Insights and everything else.
So
Right.
so it's
I mean, the thing is, one thing we want to look at is if they're not going to get time, is there off the shelf software out there that we could?
yeah, and that's another potential. I think though that there's there's an interest in having this information be a part of the insights system. And so going to an external program might be difficult. And this is part of why Ali and I have moved to building some of our own tooling out for things like Mentorship Monitor and trying to collect information about not only current mentees in the current term, but also trying to track who is continuing to contribute a year past. So that's something that I'm hoping again will get folded in. And again, like I'm seeing, like I'm hearing more encouraging talk around updates and such than I have in the last 2 years. And so this is why I'm cautiously optimistic that it may actually happen. So it's still something that we're pushing for. It's still something. So there's like you say, there's only the one team, and there are a lot of things to do. So it's like prioritizing is a little bit hard, but they are the number of bug fixes that have gone in the last 2 months have been very encouraging. So there is now active work on the platform again.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, the thing that would extend our ability to use the existing software more than anything else would be the ability to sort and filter the list of mentees, the list of applicants.
And we can now filter for things like tasks submitted. So that is now
that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and that's in there now.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like that request got put in and was considered. They're like, oh wait, we can't filter that. That sounds like a bug, not a feature. And so they have added that. They've been doing so they're like I said, they are back in a I mean, this time last year they weren't even fixing bugs. So now they're fixing bugs and making things easier to use. And one of the things I was actually thinking is using for example, for like work reports, I was thinking of adding that as a task in the platform to help track whether or not folks have done that. So like I'm seeing enough movement that I'm now thinking about, okay, how can I expand how I'm using the system? So if that tells you how excited I am, I don't know what else would, because that's
cool. Okay. Okay, well, that's good news. Yeah, that's just, I was just starting to think about it and being like, okay, if we do a drive for folks from Nigeria to submit applications, what happens if we're successful, right?
Well, I still think the total number of the number of applicants might go up, but the number of accepted projects is still limited by the number of CNCF projects that put in proposals.
Yeah.
And so it would still probably be around 50 for the next term, right? Like that seems to be like,
I mean, that is not going to go up in the foreseeable future, right? Because you're limited by mentor time.
Yeah. Well, this is why I think we need to focus on the sandbox and getting the sandbox projects to the point where they can accept new contributors. Because if they can accept new contributors, then they're that step closer to being able to be a mentor. And that was actually something that if I had a little bit more time last contributor strategy meeting, that's something that I wanted to talk with that team about, is how can we work with sandbox projects more to get them in a spot where we can ladder them up to mentorship. But I didn't have time last day, so I didn't bring that up, and now we're at 10:55. I have like 2 minutes left in this meeting, so don't really have time to talk about it, but that's the thoughts. That's what's been sort of rattling around my brain for the last few weeks here.
Mhm. Okay. So. Okay. The
So again, speaking of time, I think we're basically out of time at this point here. So are there any other last sort of quick comments, questions, or concerns before we close this one down?
Nope.
No, it was great. Great that
Sila,
you-
Prasanth?
No, well, it was great that you were both able to join. I'm glad that Vasily, you were finally able to join us. Thank you for coming, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
See you. Bye.
Bye.